Hello, it's Philip Taylor speaking from Richmond Green Chambers in London. This morning I'm looking at a book which has come to us from Oxford University Press, and it's a very thought-provoking book, and it's got, of course, a thought-provoking title. The title is The Trouble with Lawyers, and it's been written by Deborah L. Rhode. The Trouble with Lawyers. An interesting book. Now, Elizabeth and I talked about the book, and for our review we've given it a review title, highly opinionated, of course, and deliciously American, with something we Brits would certainly take issue with, or would we? Now, I hope I got your attention, because I'll explain. Let's have a look at the book first of all. It's a hardback from OUP, there it is. And there's the spine there, and then you can see on the back, it's mainly quotes of what Deborah has produced from the people who've read it. There's a nice picture of Deborah on the back, give her a bit of publicity, there we are. And then at the front, there's the usual blurb about what this book is all about. Now, I'm not going to spoil the book for you. It's not a long book to read, 230 pages. Nice lot of information in the index, and the index is on page numbers. A lot of notes at the back, bibliographical references, which are all covered actually in quite a substantial detail right at the back. So what you've got is, in the body copy, you haven't got footnotes, they're all at the back, so you have to go to the back if you're looking for any justification for assertions made. Now, this is the actual front cover there. Then there's a very nice little dedication, which I always show, which you can see there. And then we get into the book itself. There are 7 main chapter headings. There's an introduction and a conclusion. And you've got the conditions of practice, access to justice, diversity in the professions, regulation of the profession, legal education. And of course, because you've got those areas are the ones that we're all interested in. Some acknowledgements here, then the introduction. She starts off, "These are not the best of times for American lawyers." And she goes on to a whole range of things, talking about books and so forth. And then, as I said, I'm not going to spoil the reading of the book. This is a really good book to read. It's quite easy to read, and she makes some very interesting points, and I'm not going to spoil it all. But what I'm going to do is give you some indication of what Elizabeth and I thought of the book, and what we've been talking about, because the problem we've got today, it's OUP is one of a number of publishing houses who publish books about where we are with the legal profession today and where we're going. We've also, in England and Wales, forget about everywhere else, but I know America's got problems, but we got them across the Western world to a certain extent. One of the reasons is because we don't actually know where we're going to a certain extent. Now, we've had, and I'm not going to mention all the names of the people concerned, but OUP have published a number of books with these types of themes, and so have other publishers. ARC, I can think of, Globe Business, a whole range of different, Law Society to a certain extent, have looked at where we are at the moment and where we're going, because I think it is a very important thing for us to think of. Now, this is what we actually say about the book. Lawyers can be a troublesome bunch of professionals, although that is the nature of our work. So when we read The Trouble with Lawyers by Deborah Rhode, we realised that OUP had published another most useful statement on the direction lawyers might take for the future because of what has been happening in America, and which can, of course, so often affect us here, and vice versa. And the reason I've indicated that it's not just OUP that are looking at the way we do our business and what's going to happen. It's the crystal ball is out, the legal crystal ball is out for a lot of other publishing houses as well. So this is basically actually contributing to the longer term debate as the 21st century unfolds. Now, certainly the legal profession in England and Wales is going through a further transition of its own as digitalisation takes over many tasks with the arrival of artificial intelligence. So a number of important legal practice management books have started appearing which question our future, our long-term survival, and so forth. So we must take it more seriously and as a priority. And that, I think, is a fair statement as a starting off point. So that's where Rhode comes in. And by any measure, the law as a profession could be considered to be in serious trouble at present to some, and to others it could be going through another transitional period, although the American position reviewed with great clarity here in what is a most interesting and potentially alarming book, which, with this intriguing title, The Trouble with Lawyers, which sets the mind thinking. I like the title because the trouble with lawyers, we've got to have them. And don't be fooled by Shakespeare's remark, throwaway remark in a play, oh, first thing we do is kill all the lawyers. The fact is you've got to have them, and at the end of the day you've therefore got, it's a necessary evil, if I can put it that way. But there again, if you don't have some rules, you have complete chaos. Now, it's unfortunately the case that an American's trust in his or her lawyer is at a seriously low point at the moment, and that is a problem. And many members of the profession are suggesting that they wish they'd chosen a different path. I don't think the same is true in this country, because it's more to do with availability of training contracts and the cost of training. But frankly, that's always been with us in one form or another, and it's really about the dogged determination of people to actually qualify and practice as lawyers, which is part and parcel of the way we actually are successful. But of course, the same, as I say, in terms of these problems about being at a serious low point, could be said for both doctors and lawyers in the UK to a certain extent, with the withdrawal of legal aid and doctors' contracts being imposed. So you can see there are arguments, and they're not unionised in the same way as train drivers, for instance. So you can see that the skills, for instance, of a doctor are much more readily transferable internationally than that of a lawyer today, mainly because we have jurisdictional issues. But you can see the problems. They say the trouble with lawyers, it's not the trouble with professions we're talking about here, but we are looking at, in fact, the development of the professions probably in the future, because they will be with us, but they're probably going to be in a different form in the next few years. And to compound the problem, of course, let's talk now about law schools. We talk about legal education in the book without saying too much about it here. Let's talk about law schools, and with their continually rising fees both here and elsewhere, churning out too many graduates for the jobs available. But it's the same, as I say, in other fields, and that is again a practical problem. I have to say, it's been with us before. It's not as though this is something new. Anyone would think when you put the television on and you hear all these complaints that it's brand new, oh, we've got real problems. We've all been there and had that problem before, so it really isn't quite as new as you would think. So the question then is, how do you deal with it? And do you bring it to the attention of people? Well, what Deborah's done is she's brought it to the attention of people. And of course, what we've got here, let me just give you a quote about this problem of the availability of jobs. Despite the oversubscribed number of lawyers, the USA ranks 67th, tied with Uganda, out of 97 countries with what is termed access to justice and affordability of legal services. And we have not speculated on the position of the UK. But you have to bear that in mind in a democracy, which is what America is and what the UK is. The higher echelons of the legal establishment remain heavily white and male in many countries, even though some substantial efforts have been introduced in order to encourage diversity, especially here with the Bar Council. And as Rode postulates, quote, most problematic of all, the professional bodies that could help alleviate these concerns instead allegedly jealously protect their prerogatives, stifling necessary innovation and failing to hold practitioners accountable. Well, that's an interesting point. I do think the Bar Council's making an effort, but you have to take it in the round and realise that whilst there is a very substantial concern about, say, the number of people doing a bar course in this country, and the number of pupillage is available, 1,500 people studying, 400 places. You can see the problem that you will get a certain level of qualification and you're not going to get any further. So you can see that there is a problem. The words stifling necessary innovation are certainly worth considering. But the fact is, I'm afraid the bottom line on it will be, we may have too many people for what is available. And that's certainly possibly the case, which means that there becomes a reduction at some stage. Now, having said that, I'm not going to, as I say, give you any further indication because you want to read the book. what she says represents a comprehensive account of the challenges, actually in this case, which have faced the American bar, and I think will be of great interest here to English counsel. She examines how the problems have affected and originated within law schools, firms and governance institutions like the bar associations, and the impact on the justice system itself. Of course, we've got the same thing with access to lawyers for the poor being a problem, and the profession's underlying difficulties with diversity, which frankly we all have to face in the Western world. So there's nothing, as I've said before, the theme is nothing new about this, but I think it's drawing people's attention to it and then looking ahead. Let me conclude with some interesting observations, because Rhodes describes and uncovers the structural problems from the tyranny of law school rankings and billable hours to the lack of accountability and innovation built into legal governance, all of which do a disservice to lawyers, their clients and the public. I think that's very nicely put. Yes, it's correct to say that the trouble with lawyers represents a clear call to fix a profession that has gone badly off the rails and a source of innovative responses. I don't say that that's the case in the UK or in England and Wales, but I think we've got to bear in mind that there are problems, and they are being looked at even now. Finally, let me say it's an important book and an important time for the legal profession, both here and abroad. So do read it carefully, because I think it could affect your own future. I'd like to thank Deborah for her great contribution to what is going to remain a continuing debate. So it is the trouble with lawyers, and remember one thing: if you win, there's no trouble with a lawyer. If you lose, there always is. And I say that, there's the back of the book. I say that because you've got to bear in mind that people are people, and they will look and say the trouble with lawyers, well, they're all money grubbers, and make sweeping generalisations, especially if they've lost their case or had a bad experience. The fact is that we get on with our business, because quite often, in a lot of what I do, there aren't any winners or losers as such, because we're out to achieve certain things or stop certain things. And I don't think you should look at it in quite such clear black and white cases. I did like the section on legal education, because again, though I have taught in America, I did find it quite interesting to see what is actually being said concerning legal education in the States. Now, I would say to you that the book only runs to 148 pages, about 150, a bit less than that. Then you've got an awful lot of it, it's the notes and the index. So do bear in mind that what this is, and I do pay tribute to Deborah, it's a very well-researched scholastic work, but it makes good points, and they're not points that are going to go away. Thank you anyway to all concerned. Do read the book. Bye-bye.